Today we're going to fix one of the most annoying problems with your British car, and that's the starter. When you hop in and you start cranking your car and you get that crank, 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 vzz, what that is that's the old Lucas starter losing contact with the flywheel. So what I did is I hopped online and I found a reduction gear starter, and I found it at bpnorthwest.com, and it's not an extremely expensive part to buy, and it's real easy to put in. We're going to show you how to do it today. Here's our gear reduction starter that we got from BP. And here's some of the tools that we're going to need to put it in. The first thing we need is a set of wire cutters and a crimping tool. We need a flathead screwdriver and some box end wrenches. A couple of 9/16, a half, and a 7/16. You're also going to need about 3 inches of 16 gauge wire and then a couple of electrical connectors. The first thing that we have to do is we're going to have to make a jumper wire, because British cars have the solenoid on the firewall, which is where you want it. So you don't necessarily need the one that's on this now. The jumper wire is going to go from this slotted post right over to the main post, and that's it. So you don't need very much wire to put this thing together. Now that your jumper wire is done, you're going to want to put it into place. Slide the connector together here on this post, and on this one you're going to notice there's a lock washer under the nut. You want this to go under the lock washer. When you put the nut back on, only put it on finger tight, because we're going to have to put the battery cable on here as well. Now we're ready to put in our starter. The first thing you want to do when working with anything electrical is disconnect the battery. And this is where you're going to need your 1/2 inch box end wrench and flathead screwdriver to help you pry off the battery cable. Now you don't have to take your tire off to get to the starter. We just did that to get some good camera angles so you can see what we're doing. The starter sits right back here. And take your 7/16 inch wrench and take the lead off that goes to the solenoid right here. Now the only thing left to do is to take off your 2 supporting bolts on your starter. There's one right here with a nut on the back, and the same on the bottom right under here. Take the bottom one off first using 2 9/16 inch wrenches. Now when taking your top bolt off, be real cautious of your steering shaft right here. You don't want to be prying against it or putting any pressure on it, because you definitely don't want to bend this. Once you get the top bolt and washer off, you got to kind of twist it around a little bit, back and forth, to try and get it to pop out. These can be real tricky to get out sometimes, but here's the trick. When you get your bolts off, you want to slide the starter all the way back as far as it'll go. And then you'll notice, once you get it down, you'll notice that this little tip right here is going to catch on top of that right as it goes into that bell housing there. So here's what you want to do. Get your screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, and again, be real careful. There's drive shaft, drive line, and there's also some brake lines in there that you don't want to be prying against. This will compress just enough to get it loose. Now, once you have it loose, you want to push the starter back on top of that bell housing, and then you're going to want to try and bring it around the outside of that bell housing. And you're going to, again, once you get it over to that side, you're going to have to get in there and you're going to have to pry it to try and work it down. Once it gets down, push it forward again. Then you're going to want to pull it around that fuel line, and then it's going to come right out. It's a bit of a bear, but give it some patience and take your time and it'll come out. It takes about 5 minutes. Now your new starter is going to go in a heck of a lot easier than your old starter. Primarily because it's a lot shorter and smaller. There's a little bit of a trick still to put it in there. When you put it in, you're going to want to take the back end first up underneath that drive line there, set it back like that, and then move it forward. The other thing is, you want to remember, you got to keep this collar off of the old starter and put it on to use as a bushing. Now, the other thing, this little lip goes toward the firewall. Now, once you get it in there, if it doesn't quite, the holes don't quite line up, it's no big deal. We'll have to take these bolts off and readjust it to about where it's going to be so we can get this pole close to the top. Now, our holes didn't quite line up when we got it in there, so we have to take a hex key and take these bolts out so we can get the collar to move around so we'll line it up. Once we have it positioned back about where we want it, then go ahead and put those Allen heads right back in and tighten them up. Okay, now that we've got our bracket repositioned, we're going to go ahead and put it in. One thing to remember too is when you get this in and get it twisted around, this may be in a bit of a difficult position to get that battery cable on. And if it is, sometimes it's a little bit easier to go ahead and put it on now when you have it in before you mount it. Okay, now that our starter is back in place, all secure, all we have to do is hook up the battery and test it out. Well, that's how you install your new reduction gear starter on your British sports car. If you have any trouble while doing this, or any questions, just give us a call or email us. We're glad to help you out. And if there are any projects that you want to see us do in the future, drop us a line. We're happy to do it.